Hey, it's Lowery Smith of the Commander Smiths here with Searching for the Spotlight, Sonic the Hedgehog. Looking to build that tonight. We're at about 100 cards. You can go to our Moxfield Commander Smiths and check out the deck list that I have currently that I'm going to work with. I'm going to go through all the cards and try and cut along the way. And sup, Cole, hashtag Team Force Walk. No, just starting it. Did not slide in at the end. Just just starting. Um, and so that's what we're going for. Sonic the Hedgehog is a one and a blue and a red and a white for a 2/4 hasty. Whenever Sonic attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control with flash and or haste. And then whenever a creature you control with flash or haste is dealt damage, create a tapped treasure token. So this can be a huge ramp card. This can be go wide, and the +1/+1 counters make them go big. If you can control the damage that's happening, you're going to be able to keep a lot of your creatures and maybe hold people back. And also, I'm hoping to finish off people with some earthquake effects, as many treasures as that you kind of have. There is the potential to go infinite with essentially like Amulet of Vigor, Sonic, something that makes everything indestructible, and then the treasures come into play untapped with a Pyrohemia. So we're talking like 4 cards at least, if not, and then more creatures and stuff like that. But if the creatures don't die and you can keep on using the treasures for mana, but I'm not going to do that. That's a lot of work anyway. Commander Smiths is a weekly podcast. Audio is always recorded Monday nights. We have one, and then the audio is put out on Wednesdays. So you can check that out. We have like almost 390 episodes. We've been going for coming up on 8 years here. Ugh. And yeah, so a lot of material there. We also have a Patreon. We give away proxies. We have a Discord for just $1 if you want to sign up for that. That'd be great to get you on the Discord. Um, Otherwise, let me know what you think in the comments. Also, what would you put into this deck that I'm potentially missing? I got a stack of cards that I've already cut. Um, and so did a lot of the heavy lifting without you, just so this thing doesn't go more than an hour and a half. So like I said, I kind of go through the cards, I cut as I go, and then I show you the process that I do of cutting. So I go into like categories of what they're doing, and then card types and the curve that's happening. And so that's kind of what's going on. So we might as well. I don't remember if I put this in any particular order at this point. I know Knuckles on top does not mean anything because I just got Knuckles and Sonic today. If you enjoy this, please give it a like, a subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Let's get this going. All right, Knuckles the Echidna. Double strike, trample, haste 2/4. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Um, and so you have the potential. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. The double strike's really cool because it can, when it deals damage and first strike and then normal damage, you're going to get 2 triggers of that because at one time when all creatures deal damage, you're only getting 1. But then if you deal damage again, then you get another trigger for that. And then it counts for each opponent that you're doing, and so that's kind of fun. But Knuckles is probably trying to just be in here. He's hasty. What's this part? Riku, resourceful guardian. 3 mana, 2/3. Whenever you put one or more counters on a creature, it is unblockable, and then you can also pay 1 tap to move a counter. There is a merfolk that I believe I've already cut that does something just like creatures with counters are unblockable. I'm going to avoid that. I think so. I'm going to cut this right now, but I think it's really cool and works perfect in this deck. But it doesn't have haste or flash, so it's kind of an easier cut in that regard. Fear of Imposters, 3 mana, 3/2 flash. When an ETB's counter target spell, its controller manifests dreads. There could be a counterspell deck because there's plenty of flash cards that are just control, and then Sonic just builds up that base. but I'm not really a counterspell player. I have one deck that is heavy in it with Riku, and so I'll probably cut this at this point as well. Look at all these cards, and it's not that easy normally. Sort of Feast and Famine. You have one of your creatures deal damage and untaps all your land, which is really going to open you up for your flash creatures to help defend what you got going on. So I think this is going to be a really good card in here. Sensei's Divining Top, just a great card selection. Keep that up. All right, we are going to be into the card advantage spot. Ponder, just being able to look at the top three and get the best card out of them, or shuffle if you don't like them. Preordained for that cantrip. Same thing with Faithless Looting. Just seeing cards for cheap is great. Spectral Sailor has the flash, and then you can pay for to draw a card. It's a great mana sink if you're kind of just running out of cards with all the treasures that you potentially could create. And also it's a flyer, so it has that evasion, and it's great to put 1/1 counters on. Mary, Esquire of Rohan, 2/2 hasty, has first strike as long as equipped. That part doesn't matter. But whenever you attack with Mary and Sonic, draw a card. And so it becomes a 3/3 haste. And you're drawing cards. Just a way to draw cards. Archivist of Ogma has flash, and just whenever an opponent searches their library, you get to gain a life and draw a card. Flash, drawing cards. Way to be. Fairy Mastermind, flash, flying. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you get to draw a card. Also, a mana sink for that 4 mana. Each player draws a card. And so it's drawing cards, and it has flash. You should like it. Malcolm, Alluring Scandal or Scoundrel, flash, flying. And then if it deals damage, draw a card, discard a card. Also, if you get like 4, you can like cast the discarded card for free. It's pretty sweet in like a mid-range deck. Probably I won't really care about that aspect, but just drawing and discarding is going to be pretty cool. Treasure map, you get to scry with it, and then once you've done it 3 times, you get to flip it over and turns into a land, and that land can sacrifice a treasure to draw a card. Um, it just feels like it can work in here. I'm not 100% on that, but we'll see where we're at with it's a treasure themed card. So I like it. Sicarian Infiltrator, Flash 1/2, Squad 2. So when you can, it's kicker 2, make copies of it for each 2 that you spend. When it ETBs, you draw cards. And then those can all get 1/1 counters, I believe. As an additional cost to the cast this spell, you may pay 2 any number of times. When this creature enters the battlefield, create that many tokens that are copies of it. The copies would have flash, and they would all get +1/+1 from Sonic on that attack. That sounds pretty good to me. A Wave Breaker Hippocamp. Whenever you cast your first spell on during each opponent's turn, draw a card. And really, what we're talking about is if you have enough flash cards in here, you can really take advantage of the Hippocamp. If you don't have a lot of flash and you're going more haste into your deck, this is an easy cut. We'll just end up seeing how many flash cards I have in here. Jeskai Ascendancy. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn and untap them. Whenever you do that, you also can draw a card and discard a card. So it's pumping your guys kind of like Sonic. It's going to untap them, allows you to block later on, and then kind of looting is pretty awesome. Frost Cliff Siege, 3-mana enchantment. When it comes into play, choose one. Whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then whenever creatures you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste. So if this is kind of the beginning of the game, I would say you go with trying to draw more cards. If this is later and you have creatures that have a lot of 1/1 counters on them, but you want to get through, give them trample. And then also just the haste allows all of your creatures to get the +1/+1 counter from Sonic. I mean, there's a win-win here. No bad choices. Headliner Scarlet. When it ETBs, your opponent can't block. Target opponent can't block, which is going to be crazy. And then also, you during your upkeep, exile the top card and you can cast it. It has haste. Um, it lets you guys to get through one of those baddies. It's going to be, if you need the game to go longer, you're going to see more cards. I think this is going to be pretty sweet in there. Alms Collector, Flash. If an opponent would draw 2 or more cards at once, they draw 1 and you draw 1. A lot of things are just kind of like one at a time. So like Ristic Study is just draw a card. Um, Ponder, Preordain. But when you get those like burst card draws, something like Brainstorm is going to get really beat by this. like straight up beat. Sylvan Library hates this card as well. Um, but also just like Rishgar's expertise and those 6 mana, 5 mana things that draw a ton of cards as well. So Alms Collector is going to be sweet. Flash works perfectly in here. Enduring Curiosity has the flash, so it can uh, get those 1/1 counters. And then whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then also just if it dies, it comes back as an enchantment. We have Danny Pink, one of the few cards that doesn't have flash or haste in here, but creatures you control have whenever one or more counters are put on this creature for the first time each turn, draw a card. So you attack with Sonic, put 3 or 4 or 5 counters across, and you're going to draw 3 or 4 or 5 cards. Danny Pink's going to be a winner. It's automatic in this one, I'm pretty sure. Illusory Ambusher. Yeah, that was probably fucked. All right, whatever. 5 mana flasher, 4/1. Whenever it's dealt damage, draw that many cards. It's a flash that's going to block and it's going to draw you a bunch of cards. It is 5 mana, but you kind of set it up to be able to do that. And hopefully the treasures allow you to kind of have mana open for flash as well. Crom, Ludwig's Opus, 4/4 flying haste. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell, you get to draw a card. And so potentially, it's 5 mana, it has haste, you're drawing cards. Aurelia the Law, above another 5 mana 4/4 hasty, flying vigilance. Whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. And then whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, 3 damage to each opponent, and you gain 3 life. So you're an aggressive deck. You need Sonic to be attacking. If those creatures have 1/1 counters on them, you're gonna be attacking with 3 creatures if this is in play. Um, you're going to draw cards off this. The other thing that I wanted to point out that I cut just because they don't do enough, but there's enough flying vigilant haste like angels and cards out there that I almost wanted to just make it heavy in that deck, but that's mostly all they do. They don't have static abilities or triggered abilities. They're just big beaters for like 3 or 4 mana. So they end up getting cut other than Aurelia here. We have a Soul Ring, the Sonic one, very pretty. We're getting into mana. I'm gonna switch this around a little bit. Boop, boop. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 18, 19, 20, 21. We have 21. Normally I'm gonna be around like 16, 17, 18. So I know I have like 3 cuts in there. Let's try and go to manas. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 20, 21, 22. I treat it a bit like my draw, so I'm going to be in the 16, 17, 18 range. So we know we want to cut like 5, but we already went through those 2 and 3 for the Soul Ring. Wayfarer's Bauble. It's a great card in non-green decks. Go and get a basic land for 3 mana, essentially. I got the Signets because I have officially ran out of Talismans for my 3 mana decks. That's generally what I run as Talismans instead of Signets, but here we are. We'll run those. That's just for that ramp. Arcane Signet as well for that. Scholar of the Horizons. Tap to remove a counter from a permanent you control to go search your library for a plains card. That's any plains, not just a basic. If an opponent controls more lands than you may put that card on the battlefield tapped, and if you don't put it on the battlefield, put it in your hand, then shuffle. So great ramp in a counter deck. Deep Gnome Terramancer, flash. Whenever one or more lands enters the battlefield under an opponent's control without being played, you may search your library for a plains card, put on the battlefield tapped. Do this only once each turn. Great against fetches. If you have something like Zimone and Dina going against that, or just any green ramp deck is going to do really well against it. So flash it is. Inspiring Statuary, non-artifact spells you cast have improvise. You make a lot of treasures. You can tap them for colorless instead of just sacrificing them over and over for the mana. And you got a lot of non-artifact spells in here. I think this can be very beneficial. As for Told, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on As Foretold, and once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost For a spell you cast with converted mana cost X or less, where X is the number of time counters on it. This is kind of for that flash. You don't have to spend any money as long as it's equal or less than the time counters on there. I'm thinking that there's going to be enough treasures and stuff happening that I don't have to necessarily worry about my mana. So let's make that as a cut. Misleading signpost, 3 mana, comes down, taps for a blue. It has flash, so it's on theme a little bit. Uh, when it enters the battlefield during the declare attack step, you may reselect which player a permanent target attacking creature is attacking. I have to remember if I have there's like 3 to 5 creatures that kinda do this. Some of them are expensive, and I think I've cut them. But if I've already cut the cheaper creatures that do this, then I'll just come back and cut Misleading Signpost as well. That'll be an easy later cut. Crime Novelist, whenever you sacrifice an artifact or a treasure, put a 1/1 counter on it and add red. So it doubles what treasures are doing, and Crime Novelist also just on par with getting 1/1 counters on it, works with whatever theme is happening. Um, and I haven't been able to use this yet. I think it's gonna be really nice. Captain Lannery Storm. Whenever it attacks, create a treasure, and whenever you sacrifice a treasure, it gets +1/+0. It has haste. Um, it feels very lackluster already, like just looking at it whenever it attacks. Sacrifice this creature until end of turn. Yeah. Oh, like I don't want to surprise doing that. And so they'll know that it's like 5/2. I think that's a cut. I'd say that's a cut. Zorn, if you would create one or more treasure tokens, instead create those treasures plus an additional treasure token. Um, I am pretty sure with the Sonic the Hedgehog trigger, so if you deal 1 damage to all your creatures that are haste and flash, those are all separate triggers, and so if you do it 5 times, I believe you'd get 5 extra treasures. Um, could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain they would all be separate triggers. So, there we are. Alchemist Talent, 4 mana. When it enters, create 2 taps treasures, and then you can pay 2 treasures you control. Add 2 mana of any one color, and then 5 whenever you cast a spell of mana from a treasure that was spent to cast it. This class deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to each opponent. So it's it's doubling treasures, making treasures, and then dealing damage. You can just pay 1, cast something, deal 3 damage. It seems like it's going to be really good in here. Storm the Vault. Whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to a player, you get to create a treasure token. And then if you control 5 or more artifacts, which is not a feat at all in any deck that wants this, flip it, and then it can tap for blue mana for each artifact you control. It's probably insane. Smothering Tithe. Um, I don't think we need it in here. Let's cut it. Even though it's very much on theme, like I think we're good. Defiler of Instinct. It's a 4/4 first strike. As an additional cost to cast a red permanent spell, you may pay 2 life. This cost casts the red less. And then whenever you cast a red permanent spell, it deals 1 damage to any target. Um, this is kind of in there for I can just ping Sonic or any hasty thing, and then get a treasure token. That's kind of what I was thinking there. We've cut 3 so far. Maybe we do a recount. This is probably on the lower end of it. Goldspan Dragon is doubling your treasures, and Cavern Horde Dragon is making a ton of treasures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 19. I'm okay. Let's cut that for now. Might work its way in later on, but let's bring that down into an area that we like. Let's relook at our drawing cards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, 12, 21. And I would say I really like everything at like 2 and under. I like that because it scales. Aurelia is great. Crown. Ambusher just feels like a really cool one. Danny Pinks for sure. Alms Collector feels potentially weak. It's very dependent on what the opponent is doing. So there's that. Headliner Scarlet might be a little slow. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, I'm gonna be very creature heavy because I want those triggers. How much do I care about this? Cast a non-creature spell. I think I'm not doing anything from the graveyard, so looting isn't especially good for me. Um, I think that's okay to get rid of. Wave Break Hippocamp, we already have a um are those two just the weakest? I kinda like the idea of trying to flash stuff in, but also it's like not as good. 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 18. You know what? Just to get us down to 18, I think Hippocamp and Alms Collector can kind of go. But again, they can always come back in later. That's okay. I'm kind of liking where my draw and my ramp is at this point. So not too bad there. Let's see here. Whoopsie. All right. Herald of Eternal Dawn, 7 mana, 6/6 flash flying. You can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. So this feels like a good like you can't kill me right now type thing. I like that it has flash. It's a big beater. 7 mana is not out of hand with this kind of deck with those treasures. I like it so far. Plum Creed Escort. When it ETBs, target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. Flash flying, so it has that evasion. Um, I don't know how much I like. It's a nice little protection spell, and I'm okay with that. Spell Queller. Flash flying. When it ETBs, exile target spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. And when it leaves, the exiled card's owner may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So it's a cool type of counterspell. Again, there's some counterspells that could be used. Lots of them are flash for creatures. I cut a lot of them at this point, but that is another way you could go sonic control, which would be sweet. Aven Interpreter, same thing. Flash flying, exile, target spell. It becomes plotted. Spells your opponents cast from graveyards or from exile cost 2 more to cast. Um, you know, it's kind of niche, but also just stopping a spell. Spell Stutter Sprite. When it enters, counter target spell with converted mana cost 1 or less. It's just flash. It'll get big. Lightning Greaves and Boots for this protection. I love it. And then Reconnaissance, remove target attacking creature you control from combat and untap it. Um, and so it just allows you to be really aggressive. If something's going to be blocked and dying, you can remove it from combat. You don't get that damage trigger that you potentially want, but if you're saving your creature, it's probably worth it. Eldrazi Monument for that indestructible, get real aggressive. Mithril Coat to be aggressive. Hammer of Nazan, it's kind of only here because it's a Sonic card at this point. I think we have plenty of protection spells. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I do like just being really aggressive with it, but we could probably get rid of it. Let's cut it. Borrow's Charm, Dawn's, Yada, Flare of Fortitude, Flawless Maneuver. Um, Urbrass the Hidden gives everything haste, and your opponent's stuff comes into play tapped. I think we have enough haste that I don't really care. I can cut that because most everything kind of has these abilities. Seal of Godhead is giving Sonic +2/+2 lifelink and unblockable, which is great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Most of the time I try and make a decision between I just have there's a lot of indestructible. So I think, Boots and Greaves go in there just because they're Sonic cards. I like the idea of Herald of the Eternals, and then these counterspell type cards. I'm okay with those in there. And so what we're doing is kind of talking about Reconnaissance. I'm okay with that too. Just get that Sonic trigger in. Like, what do we want to cut from the indestructible package? Um, I really, really like Flawless Maneuver. Um, if I didn't like Pico Hammer, I probably shouldn't like Mithril Coat. And should I just be happy with 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah, I'm probably okay with that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 14. Okay, work with that. All right, let's look at some of this damage slash removal. Pyrohemia is an automatic in this deck. We have Power Stone Minefield. Whenever a creature attacks or blocks, this deals 2 damage to it. And so Sonic's gonna live. Some of this stuff could be really brutal in combat, like with your opponents. It's kind of giving them a little bit of an edge. Um, but it's going to get you a ton of treasures in that regard. Powstar Minefield. Caltrops is just doing the same thing, but 1 damage, and it's cheaper to cast. Then you have Light Mine Field. Whenever 1 or more creatures attack, Light Mine Field deals damage to each of those creatures equal to the number of attacking creatures. So treasure, treasure, treasure. Oh yeah, we have Archangel of Avacyn. When it ETBs, everything I have gains indestructible. And then whenever a non-angel creature you control dies, transform it. And when it's transformed, it deals 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. So if you can sacrifice a creature while this comes into play, everything gains indestructible. This flips 3 damage to everything. Everything gives you treasures. It's the ideal spot, right? Fault line, rolling earthquake, molten disaster, and earthquake are there for deal damage to everything early on, just like 1 or 2 to get some removal. Later on in the game, empty all your treasure into it to get rid of somebody and still gain a bunch of treasures. Um, that's removal 1, 2, 3, 4. These are in same thing with Avacyn 2, 3, 4. I think these are I like all of these cards in here. That's where we're hoping. We have Charming Scoundrel. Oh, these are kind of the all right. When it ETBs, either discard a card to draw a card, create a treasure, or attach a Wicked Roll token to it, or what I don't even know what that is. But it's a 1/1 haste for 2 with some relevant ETBs. I'm happy with it. Academy Manufacturer. Whenever you make a treasure, also make a food and a clue. You're going to make a ton of artifacts in here. Flame Weaver, it would be amazing in here as well. Professional Facebreaker. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure, has menace, and then sacrifice a treasure, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. I think this is worth a spot, even though it doesn't have haste or flash. Just how many treasures you're going to have, and you're going to be able to see some extra cards there. Those are kind of their own thing. This is the mana and card advantage spot. So, Eowyn, Fearless Knight, has haste. When it ETBs, exile target creature an opponent controls with greater power, and then legendary creatures you control gain protection from each of that creature's colors until end of turn. I was thinking about doing a blinking thing. Like, it'd be great with a lot of the flash cards with something like this, just being able to exile cards. Um, but I don't think it's in here at this point. But this is still sweet. It's removal along with kind of getting your legends through. So Cathar's Commando, flash, but also sacrifice it, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Aven Mind Sensor, flash. If an opponent would search a library, that player searches the top 4 cards instead. Just stopping people from searching your opponents. It's not just you, or not you at all. Brazen Borrower has the adventure, so bounce non-land permanent, and then flash 3/1 can't block other than flyers. The Peregrine Dynamo 1/5 hasty for 3. Tap pay 1, tap copy target activated or triggered ability you control from another legendary source that's not a commander. You may choose new targets for that copy. That's something that I'm probably going to have to go through and check on. We'll see how many actual legends that we have in here. Um, that's probably worth it. But man, 3 mana 1/5, I'd love to have it in there. Aboleth Spawn, Flash, and then whenever a creature entering the battlefield under an opponent's control causes a triggered ability of a creature to trigger, you may copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So Aboleth Spawn, great spot for that. Snapcaster Mage, recast one of those instant indestructible things for you. Dualcaster Mage enters battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. It has flash, so it works. Masako the Humorless, 2/1, has flash, and then tap creatures you control may block as though they were untapped. Um, this is going to be really nice to stop any crackbacks from happening. I have seen that this card has skyrocketed mostly because of stations, because people can just empty into the station and stay back and still block. But I think it's really relevant here as well. Happy to see the card being relevant too. Legion Loyalist, 1/1 haste. Whenever it deals, or it and 2 other creatures attack, creatures you control gain first strike and trample until end of turn and can't be blocked by creature tokens this turn. This is doing a lot for 1 mana. I think it's a nice aggressive card. Kikijiki Mirror Breaker. So you could, if you like your combos, you can have like stuff like Pestermite, the ETB untap, and so you just like you tap, make a copy of Pestermite ETBs, untap Kiki Jiki, do it a million times. They all have haste attack. Boom, you won. You can definitely do that in this deck. Haste, flash, it all works together. Um, I just am not going to do that. So I like the Kiki Jiki for the those secondary like ETB abilities, like doing the spell queller or the Eowyn. There's plenty of ETB effects in here that are pretty dope. So I like Kiki Jiki. Saheeli's doing the same thing. Same thing with Splinter Twin. Just slap that on something. And then Fable and Mirror Breaker also in there for the copy ability, but also the 2/2 treasure, discard 2, draw 2. That's a great card. Uncivil Unrest, non-token creatures you control have Riot, so it's giving haste or a 1/1 counter. And if a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead. So it maybe you're closing out the game a lot quicker. Um, I have always found this card to be a little too much, but I think it could really work in this deck. All will be one. Whenever you put one or more counters on a permanent or player, all will be one deals that much damage to target opponent, uh, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls. The reason why, so I've tried to put these in my like Shalayan Halard deck where I'm counting on creatures coming into play to have the counters triggering. To whereas I think these are going to be great here because I can have a board state, cast them, and still just have the effect happen. And I think that's going to be really good in that regard. The Ozolith, if stuff dies, you get to put 1/1 counters on it. You're kind of saving them. Same thing with Resourceful Defense. Um, it's just they're just protection for the 1/1 counter, so you're not losing all your progress and work. Sigarda summons a 6 mana enchantment. Creatures you control with 1/1 counters on them have base power and toughness 4/4, and flying and are angels. Um, this is a huge swing, right? Basically giving everything flying, and I think this is work. I think it does work. I think Thundering Raiju, 3/3 haste. Whenever it attacks, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, and then it deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures you control other than Thundering Raiju. So, right? You're just attacking, you're attacking, and then you're checking for how many 1/1 counters on everything. It just depends on how many creatures you have. I think this probably gets better the more tokens you have. Like, if you're going super wide, I think people like it a lot more. Sentinel Sarah Lions, 4/4 haste. As long as an artifact ETB'd under your control, creatures you control get +2/+2. And then whenever Sentinel and at least two other creatures attack, it deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control to target player. You might have a lot of treasures, so you're going to be able to do a lot of direct damage to a player. Stride Hanger Automaton. 3 mana, 1/4. Thopters you control get +1/+1. And if one or more artifact tokens would be created under your control, those tokens and an additional 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying are created instead. So, like I was saying, whenever you're doing damage to a creature, I believe it's just separate treasures of the triggers. And if that's the case, then you're making a lot of 1/1 Thopters. And if you're not, then it's not that good. It's okay, but it's not that great of a card. But if you can make 4 treasures and 4 2/2 flying Thopters, like, that's a really good card. Windcrag Siege. Either choose if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. You're picking that every time. Getting a 1/1 red goblin is nothing. You get double sonic triggers in here. That's the way to go. Aurelia, the war leader, flying vigilance haste, and whatever it attacks, you get a second attack, which is basically a second attack trigger, potentially more damage, yada yada. Sakashima, spark double, and Sakashima again. Those are just make more sonics. That's what you're trying to do with that. Um, let's see how many cuts we made here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. We're down in our 90s, lower 90s. Let's see here. Let's see how many legends we have. I mean, that these can technically work. They're not um okay. That can work. That's another trigger. I think we might have enough legends at this point. As we cut away, there might be more. But if we can just copy some of these yeah, that backside, more damage would be sweet. Um, boo-doo-doo. Let's see here. Well, I think that just happens. Oh, it's given the other thing. That doesn't count technically. Bop, 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 bop. Let's see here. Anything else? Yeah, that's pretty weak though. 2, 3. Yeah, I mean, like that's a fistful of legends at that point. We'll see if the clones stick around, but I'm pretty happy with that. All right, let's let's kind of go into card type. I don't normally do that right away, but I'm not normally that organized either for what we just did. All right. I'm going to be super creature heavy, so let's just move all those into a pile and then work from there. So, one reason why I do this is just to see if I'm too high on something or I wish I was high. Just kidding. I stopped doing gummies for a little bit, which is kind of crazy to think about. They helped me sleep a lot better back last winter. We'll see how this does this year. Um, eh. go. Right. Sometimes there's just like a lot of artifacts or enchantments that you don't expect, and it's good to see everything. Oh, I did cut those so misleading signposts can go away. So what I was kind of thinking. Let's see here. One, two, three. Enchantments, yeah, kind of more enchantments than I think I was anticipating, but that's almost always the case for me. Sorceries are pretty minimal. Faithless looting. I have no discard package. Like I have no interaction there. I have blue. I'd rather just go with another cantrip. So faithless looting can kind of go away, and we'll see if I need any more cantrips. Okay. Um, Instance, just protection, protection a little bit, and then yeah, there we go. That is common. Also, to look at it, like I'd have enough mana to be running something like yeah, meh, meh, meh. Enchantments. Let's take a look at that. Splinter Twin, Uncivil Unrest. I should check on that. 6. 2, 1. 4, 4. 3s. Reconnaissance makes a lot of sense. Guard of Summons at this point still has some cool stuff to it. Yeah, I like those a bit. I'm kind of interested. I think we need the always damaging thing going on, but I don't know, man. All right, Splinter Twin, is that something that I'm going to want? Like, I think it's cool with some other creatures, but if I'm just, it's not really going to work with the legends. But what do I like for ETBs? Oh, if I could put that on a Archangel Avacyn, have it come into play and just indestructible whenever I want, that'd be pretty cool. Mhm. No, 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 no. Maybe tapping that and drawing 2, maybe. Archivist of Ogma. Yeah, copying that would be pretty cool. Um, ooh, setting that up. Yeah, yeah. Maybe some counterspell stuff, but it's not like straight counterspell, so that doesn't matter much. I think I'm happy with the creature versions, but I think Splinter Twin can kind of go. Otherwise, I'm probably happy with this that 4 spot. Let's look at 3. Doubling combat triggers. I'd have to. All right, we like these at this point. Let's look at any attack triggers. 1, 2. 3, 4. Or would I just be happy? I mean, obviously Sonic works there, so I should pay attention to that. That's an attack trigger. Attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control. All right. I mean, it's not the thing that's going on. That double up doesn't really matter. Attack triggers. That's another one. Yeah. um it doesn't work a lot. I like that the clones are a lot more flexible. I think that's probably where I'm gonna go. If I end up cutting the the Sakashimas, I might want